Mike McDaniel stood there, his calm demeanor masking what had to be an emotional storm brewing inside. When asked how far the Dolphins were from the AFC's elite teams, the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, his answer came measured, deliberate. "It doesn't really matter how I feel," he said. "My job isn't to have feelings." And just like that, the conversation moved on. But it lingered, didn't it? The question hung in the air long after the presser ended. Because the truth was plain to see, Miami felt so far away from those teams it was almost painful to think about. Meanwhile, Kansas City and Buffalo prepared for yet another clash in the AFC Championship. The Chiefs, on their 7th consecutive trip to this stage, have made dominance feel routine. 7 straight. That kind of consistency doesn't just happen, it's built brick by brick, year by year. And Buffalo? They've made the AFC East their personal playground, winning 5 straight division titles and showing no signs of slowing down. For Miami, this isn't just frustrating, it's demoralizing. Once upon a time, the Dolphins were the class of the division, but now? They're the ones stuck in perpetual catch-up mode. It's not just that Buffalo is winning, it's how they're winning. They figured out the formula, the consistency, the ability to deliver week in and week out. Miami? They're still searching, still trying to find that elusive magic. The Dolphins' last AFC Championship appearance was in 1992, and even then, they lost to Buffalo. That's how long it's been. Over 3 decades of wandering in the wilderness, and the frustration is palpable. When McDaniel and Chris Grier sat down for the end-of-season media availability, the mood was somber, heavy with the weight of unmet expectations. There were no excuses, just an honest acknowledgement that things need to change. Toughness and discipline were buzzwords. So was the need to shore up the offensive line, find a quality backup quarterback, and address their struggles in road games and cold weather. The issues are numerous, and none of them are simple fixes. The offense, for one, was a shadow of what it had been the year before. Injuries to Tua Tagovailoa derailed everything. He missed 6 games, and the ripple effect was devastating. Without him, the offense lacked rhythm, confidence, and an identity. They ranked 22nd in offensive yards per play and a dismal 28th in rushing yards per play. That kind of ineffectiveness doesn't happen by accident. The line couldn't protect, the running backs couldn't find lanes, and the offense as a whole sputtered when it mattered most. This team desperately needs to rediscover its balance, its physicality, and its ability to impose its will on opposing defenses. Even with Tua, the limitations were clear. The Dolphins are entirely too dependent on his health, and that's a dangerous place to be. When he's on the field, the offense is dynamic, capable of explosive plays and rapid-fire scoring drives. When he's not, everything crumbles. Miami needs a reliable backup quarterback who can step in and keep the train on the tracks, but finding one without undermining Tua's confidence is a delicate challenge. Grier and McDaniel have to navigate this situation carefully, knowing the entire season hinges on their ability to strike the right balance. And then there's the Tyreek Hill situation. His name has been floated in trade rumors, and while the idea seems unthinkable on the surface, it speaks to the desperate need for resources elsewhere. Hill is the engine that drives this offense, the player who forces defenses to account for his presence on every snap. But if Miami wants to rebuild its trenches or address its other glaring weaknesses, moving Hill might be the only viable path forward. It's a gamble, no doubt, but the Dolphins are running out of easy answers. The defense, thankfully, was a much-needed bright spot. Under Anthony Weaver's guidance, the unit took significant strides, ranking 9th in defensive yards per play and 5th in passing yards allowed per play. They were tough, disciplined, and effective, even in the face of injuries to key players like Bradley Chubb and Jaylon Phillips. But there's still room for improvement. They need to force more turnovers, generate more consistent pressure, and shore up the secondary, particularly with the possibility of Jevon Holland's departure looming. This team has holes, and there's no denying it. The offensive line needs an overhaul. The running game needs a spark. The secondary needs reinforcements. And above all, the Dolphins need health. Key players have to stay on the field, or none of this will matter. Greer knows the clock is ticking. The AFC isn't getting any easier, with young, talented quarterbacks dominating the landscape and perennial contenders like Kansas City and Buffalo showing no signs of regression. The numbers don't lie. Compared to the teams still playing in late January, Miami is lagging in almost every offensive category. The Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, and even the Commanders outpaced the Dolphins in yards per play, passing efficiency, and rushing effectiveness. That's not a gap, it's a canyon. If Miami wants to compete, they need to close that canyon fast.